Millresh refreshed his Twitter feed, his heart pounding. The news was everywhere. Fortnite VR was finally here. After years of rumors and speculation, Epic Games had done it. They'd brought the biggest game in the world to virtual reality. Millresh, a popular Fortnite streamer with a loyal following, could barely contain his excitement. He, like millions of others, had been waiting for this moment. This wasn't just a new update, it was a revolution. A chance to experience the game like never before. He scrolled through countless posts, each one buzzing with the same electrifying energy. Videos showed players strapping on their VR headsets, their faces lit up with anticipation. The hype was real, and Millresh was caught right in the middle of it. He knew he had to be one of the first to stream it. The package arrived later that day, a sleek black box with the iconic Fortnite logo emblazoned on the side. This wasn't just a game, it was an experience. Millresh carefully unboxed the VR headset. It was lighter than he expected, sleek and futuristic. He set up his camera, adjusting the lights in his streaming room. He wanted to capture every detail, every reaction for his viewers. As he put on the headset, he could feel the weight of thousands of eyes on him. This was it. The world dissolved around him, replaced with the familiar, vibrant landscape of the Fortnite island. But this time, it was different. He could feel the wind against his skin, hear the rustle of leaves in the virtual trees. It was immersive, breathtakingly real. He spent the next few hours exploring the world, marveling at the detail and realism. The gameplay was smooth, intuitive. It was everything he'd ever hoped for. But as he played, a nagging feeling began to creep into the back of his mind. He couldn't shake off the news articles he'd skimmed past, the ones that mentioned a special announcement from Donald Mustard, Fortnite's enigmatic creator, an announcement that had been drowned out by the hype surrounding the VR launch. He paused his stream, pulling the headset away from his face. His heart pounded in his chest. He had a bad feeling about this. He had to know what Mustard had said. He had to know what he was really getting himself into. Millresh's fingers trembled as he typed Donald Mustard Fortnite VR announcement into the search bar. A cold dread crept up his spine. He clicked on the first video that popped up. Donald Mustard, his face usually beaming, looked uncharacteristically serious. "Gamers," Mustard began, his voice low and steady. "We at Epic Games are proud to bring you Fortnite VR, the most immersive gaming experience ever created." Millresh felt a knot of unease in his stomach. Mustard's tone was off, too serious. But with this incredible leap forward, Mustard continued, comes a new level of realism. The screen behind Mustard flickered, revealing a scene from the anime Sword Art Online. Millresh's blood ran cold. He knew exactly where this was going. In Fortnite VR, Mustard announced, his voice barely a whisper, death in the game means death in real life. Section 2, Terms of Service. Millresh stared at the screen, his mind reeling. This had to be a joke, a publicity stunt. But deep down he knew it was real. The news was already exploding. #Fortnite Death Game was trending worldwide. He scrolled through the updated Terms of Service, his heart pounding in his chest. Each word was like a hammer blow. By putting on the headset and agreeing to the terms, players were consenting to a game where death was permanent. He thought of the millions who had already logged in, oblivious to the danger. He thought of the young, eager faces he'd seen in the online forums, excited to experience the game in a whole new way. They had no idea what they had gotten themselves into. Section 3, Trapped. Millresh ripped the headset off, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The world around him seemed to spin. He was trapped. He'd already logged in, agreed to the terms. He was a player in this twisted game, whether he liked it or not. His phone buzzed incessantly. Messages from friends, fellow gamers, all panicking, all asking the same question. What were they supposed to do? He didn't have an answer. He could barely process what was happening himself. But one message cut through the noise. It was from his younger brother, his voice trembling with fear. Millresh, the message read, I'm in the game. I'm scared. Section 1. The stream must go on. His brother's message hung heavy in the air. Millresh knew what he had to do. He had a platform, a voice that reached millions. He had to warn people. He had to show them the truth. He took a deep breath, his hands shaking as he launched his streaming software. The chat window exploded with messages, a chaotic mix of excitement and fear. He had to take control. "Listen up," he said, his voice hoarse but firm. "This isn't a game anymore, this is real. If you die in Fortnite VR, you die for real." Millresh spent the next few hours documenting everything. He showed the updated terms of service, the chilling reality of the death game. He answered questions, offering what little comfort he could. His viewers were terrified, but they were also desperate. They clung to Millresh's every word, looking for guidance, for hope. And as he talked, an idea began to form in his mind. He knew the law of Fortnite. He knew about the imagined order, the shadowy organization that controlled the island. They were the ones who created this loop, this endless cycle of death and rebirth. They were the key. "There has to be a way out," he said, his voice gaining strength. "We have to find the imagined order. They're the only ones who can help us." The chat exploded again, this time with a flicker of hope. Could the imagined order really be the answer? Millresh wasn't sure, but he had to try. He dove into the game, his viewers following his every move. He explored every corner of the island, searching for clues, for anything that could lead him to the imagined order. Hours turned into days. The island was a dangerous place, filled with traps and enemies. But Millresh couldn't give up, not with so much at stake. And then, just when his hope began to dwindle, he found it. A hidden bunker deep beneath the surface of the island. The entrance was marked with a single cryptic symbol, the eye of the imagined order. Millresh's heart pounded as he approached the bunker door. His viewers held their breath, their fear and anticipation palpable even through the digital divide. This was it. This could be the answer they'd been searching for. He took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The air inside was stale and cold, heavy with the silence of a forgotten place. A single flickering light bulb illuminated a long, narrow corridor, the walls adorned with strange symbols and schematics. It felt like stepping into the belly of a beast. He moved cautiously, his every sense on high alert. He could hear his own heartbeat in his ears, a steady drum against the oppressive silence. The corridor seemed to stretch on forever, each step raising more questions than answers. "What is this place?" a voice whispered in his earpiece. It was his brother, his voice tight with fear. Millresh didn't have an answer. He didn't even know if this place held answers or just more danger. The corridor opened into a large, cavernous chamber. In the center, bathed in the cold glow of a holographic map, stood a lone figure. Dr. Sloan, the leader of the imagined order. Millresh recognized her instantly from the game's lore. Her sharp features and piercing gaze seemed to cut through him. She turned, her eyes locking onto his. Even through the VR headset, he could feel the weight of her stare. It was the look of someone who had seen too much, someone who bore the weight of the world on their shoulders. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice cold and sharp as a knife. "This place is off limits." Millresh swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. "I need your help," he said, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "People are dying, trapped in the game." Dr. Sloane's expression softened slightly, a flicker of something akin to sympathy crossing her features. "I know," she said, her voice low. "I designed this game, but it wasn't supposed to be like this." She explained that Donald Mustard, driven by some twisted ambition, had hijacked her creation, twisting it into this deadly game. He had tampered with the core code, linking it to the player's vital signs. "There's a way to reverse it," she said, her gaze hardening with resolve. "A kill switch, hidden deep within the game's code, but accessing it won't be easy." She turned back to the holographic map, her fingers tracing a path across its glowing surface. "We'll need to reach the very heart of the loop, the Nexus. And to do that, we'll need to face every challenge, every enemy this island can throw at us." Millresh felt a chill run down his spine. This was it, his chance to save his brother, to save everyone trapped in this nightmare. But the look on Dr. Sloane's face told him that this was no easy feat. "And Donald?" Millresh asked, his voice tight with apprehension. "He won't let us reach the Nexus without a fight," Sloane replied, her eyes hardening. "He's become obsessed with this twisted game, with the power it gives him." The weight of the situation pressed down on Millresh. He wasn't just playing a game anymore. This was real. Life and death. And the fate of millions rested on his shoulders. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the fight ahead. He had to do this. For his brother. For everyone. The air crackled with tension as Millresh and Dr. Sloane stepped out of the bunker. The holographic map burned into their memories. The idyllic landscape of Fortnite Island felt different now, tainted by the knowledge of its deadly secret. The path to the Nexus was a gauntlet, each step a fight for survival. They battled their way through hordes of programmed enemies, Sloane's tactical genius guiding their every move. Millresh, fueled by adrenaline and fear, discovered a new level of skill, his fingers dancing across the controller with deadly precision. Each victory was a bittersweet reminder of the real lives at stake. Days blurred into nights. Sleep became a luxury they couldn't afford. The pressure was immense, the threat of failure a constant weight on their shoulders, but they couldn't give up. Not now, not when they were so close. "We're running out of time," Sloane said, her voice tight with urgency. The map showed they were nearing the center of the island, the location of the Nexus. But the closer they got, the more intense the challenges became. The island seemed to fight back, its very code twisting and contorting around them. Familiar landscapes morphed into nightmarish visions, the boundaries between reality and the game blurring. Millresh could hear whispers in the wind, fragments of code whispering his name, taunting him with the impossible stakes. He confided in Sloane, his voice trembling with a fear he'd never known. She listened patiently, her eyes filled with a strange sadness. "He's toying with you," she said, her voice low, "trying to break you." "Who?" Millresh asked, his heart pounding. "Geno," Sloane replied, her voice barely a whisper. "The true power behind the imagined order. He's the one who corrupted the game, who turned it into this death trap." The revelation hit Millresh like a physical blow. Geno, a name whispered in hushed tones in the deepest corners of the Fortnite lore. A being of immense power, shrouded in mystery and dread. They finally reached the Nexus, a towering structure of shimmering energy pulsating at the heart of the island. It was a breathtaking sight, a swirling vortex of pure code, the very essence of the game world. But amidst the awe, Millresh felt a cold dread grip his heart. The air crackled with energy, a palpable sense of danger radiating from the Nexus. Sloane consulted the map one last time, her brow furrowed in concentration. "This is it," she said, her voice tight with tension. "The kill switch. It's inside." But as they approached the entrance, a wall of energy slammed down, blocking their path. A cold, sardonic laughter echoed through the air, sending shivers down Millresh's spine. "I've been expecting you," a voice boomed, echoing all around them. "Geno!" The air shimmered, and a figure materialized before them. Geno. He was tall and imposing, clad in flowing robes of pure energy, his features obscured by a swirling vortex of code. His eyes, however, burned with a cold, calculating intelligence that sent shivers down Millresh's spine. "You cannot stop what has already begun," Geno boomed, his voice resonating with an unsettling power. "This world is flawed, broken. I am merely purging its weaknesses." "You're insane!" Millresh shouted, his voice shaking with anger and fear. "You're killing innocent people." Geno merely smiled, a chilling, humorless expression. "They are but pawns in a much larger game," he said, his voice like ice. "And their sacrifices will pave the way for a new world order." Millresh felt a surge of rage. He wouldn't let this stand. He wouldn't let Geno win. He had to protect his brother, protect everyone trapped in this digital hellscape. He raised his controller, his finger hovering over the fire button. He had come too far to give up now. It was time to end this. The air crackled with energy as Millresh faced Geno, his finger trembling on the trigger. He knew the odds were stacked against him. Geno was a being of pure code, existing on a level far beyond human comprehension. But Millresh had something Geno didn't, a reason to fight. He thought of his brother, his terrified face flashing in his mind. He thought of the millions trapped in the game, their lives hanging in the balance. He couldn't let them down. He wouldn't. Geno launched a wave of energy towards Millresh, a blinding torrent of pure code. Millresh reacted instinctively, diving to the side as the energy crashed into the ground behind him, shaking the very foundations of the virtual world. "You are nothing but a glitch in the system," Geno boomed, his voice echoing across the digital landscape. "A fleeting anomaly that I will correct." Millresh knew he couldn't match Geno's raw power. He had to be smart. He had to use his knowledge of the game, his years of experience, to find a weakness. He weaved and dodged, his mind racing as he analyzed Geno's attacks, searching for a pattern, an opening. Sloane, her voice calm and steady in his earpiece, guided him, her tactical brilliance cutting through the chaos. "The code, Millresh," she said, her voice a beacon of clarity in the digital storm. "Target the code." And then he saw it. A flicker in Geno's defenses, a momentary lapse in his otherwise impenetrable code. It was a long shot, nearly impossible, but it was all he had. Taking a deep breath, Millresh focused all his concentration, his fingers dancing across the controller with a speed and precision he never thought possible. He targeted the weak point, pouring every ounce of his skill, every bit of his will, into a single, desperate attack. The digital world held its breath as Millresh's attack connected. A direct hit on Geno's vulnerable core. A blinding flash of energy erupted, shaking the very foundations of the virtual world. Millresh shielded his eyes, his heart pounding against his ribs. When the light subsided, Geno stood frozen, his form flickering erratically, riddled with lines of corrupted code. His cold, calculating eyes flickered with confusion, then fear. The code he had believed to be absolute, infallible, was unraveling. "Impossible!" Geno gasped, his voice distorted, fragmented. I am deleting." With a final ear-splitting crackle of energy, Geno dissolved into a shower of digital sparks, his reign of terror over. Silence descended upon the Nexus, heavy and profound. The game world, once teetering on the brink of chaos, began to stabilize, the corrupted code slowly receding. Millresh collapsed to his knees, his body trembling with exhaustion and relief. He had done it. He had defeated Geno. But the battle was far from over. He still had to free the millions trapped in the game. Millresh, his heart still pounding from the battle, looked to Dr. Sloane. Her face, usually stoic, held a glimmer of hope. "Geno is gone," she said, her voice echoing in the sudden silence of the Nexus. "But the kill switch—" She pointed to the heart of the Nexus, where a pulsing orb of energy hung suspended. It throbbed with an eerie light, the very essence of the game's code flowing within it. "That's where it is," Sloane continued, her voice laced with urgency. Millresh knew what he had to do. Taking a deep breath, he approached the orb, his hand outstretched. "Be careful, Millresh," she warned. "The code is unstable. One wrong move." Ignoring the warning tingling in the back of his mind, Millresh touched the orb. A jolt of energy surged through him, searing his senses with the raw power of the game's code. His vision went white, his ears ringing with a deafening static. For a moment he felt himself falling, lost in a sea of data and light. Then, as quickly as it began, it stopped. He gasped for breath, his vision returning to the familiar, albeit distorted, landscape of the Nexus. The orb, once pulsing with a menacing light, now emitted a gentle, warm glow. The link had been severed. A wave of relief washed over him, so powerful it nearly brought him to his knees. He could feel it, even through the digital barrier of the game. The virtual walls that had held millions captive were crumbling. Somewhere out there, his brother, along with countless others, were waking up free from the deadly grip of Fortnite VR. We did it," he stammered, his voice hoarse with exhaustion and elation. Sloane smiled, a genuine smile he hadn't seen from her before. "You did it, Millresh," she corrected, her voice filled with newfound warmth. "You saved them all." The world around them began to dissolve, the lines between the game and reality blurring. He woke up with a gasp, ripping the VR headset from his face. His room was bathed in the soft light of dawn, the sounds of the waking city filtering through his window. It felt real, more real than it ever had before. He was alive, he had survived. His phone buzzed on his nightstand, a message from his brother, frantic and filled with relief. "You were right, it worked, we're safe." Millresh smiled, a single tear rolling down his cheek. He had faced the deadly game and emerged victorious. The game was over, but the fight for a future free from such nightmares had just begun.